you're highly active on social media. We have One Path Network, also highly active on social media. But even social media in and of itself is not safe from censorship, content suppression. I'm sure you've experienced your fair share of content suppression. What is the response to the censorship, whether that's from Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, or even I would argue Elon Musk, who champions himself as an advocate for freedom of speech, yet we know he's tied to the Israeli lobby?
Well, look, that question is really germane to the previous question in the sense that one thing we have to acknowledge is that both legacy media and digital media are both privately owned, generally speaking, with some exception, right? There's the ABC, the BBC, the CBC, which are government-owned news networks. But then the vast majority of them, which are really influential, are privately owned. And privately owned outfits, whether it's big tech, social media platform, or a newspaper like a Sky News, have a clear-cut political bias that's tied to economic interest, right? So that's one thing we have to acknowledge whenever we sort of engage with or speak on these platforms. Meta, for one, has deep, apart from them being a business which has the primary objective of maximizing their profit, they also have intimate ties with the state of Israel, right? You might have heard of Unit 8200 of the IDF, which is their surveillance arm. There's a really, really proximate symbiosis between that agency and Meta. So the suppression is not surprising. So when you have, for instance, accounts like mine that are shadow banned, flagged, during many stages of this past year, my Instagram Live was disabled, and that's one way in which I was able to engage in, real-time rolling conversation on important issues. It's not a coincidence, right? So their objective is to suppress voices that are not even critical, but oftentimes even fair-handed on this issue. So I know that, and I think that for young people, it's critical to know that oftentimes we look at things from a perspective of fairness, symmetry, equality. That is not the proper sort of prism when assessing these questions within, Western context like the United States or Australia. These platforms are driven by power, right? And those who wield and hold power behind the scenes dictate which stories make it to the top and which stories are suppressed.